Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. I'm back. Hey, Creating Maven. I know I didn't go anywhere, but it feels like it's been forever that we've had some time, just you and I alone. I've had so many guests. In fact, the last 5 episodes have been guest episodes. And so, it's been a while. I've missed you. I've missed our time together, just you and I, talking about all things creating and talking about our journey. So I want to get back to that today, because I've had a lot of time to reflect. And if you've been listening to the last few episodes, you probably have as well. There's been a lot that's been shared. There's been a lot of goodness. And frankly, I've been pretty shook up, and it's been making me think about a lot of things, especially about some decisions that I've made earlier on in my life. So when I think more recently, I remember turning the newspaper. I picked up this newspaper, turning it over. I remember turning it over in my hand and reading the words back to myself. And as I was doing it, I felt a little sad and just a twinge of regret, because the newspaper I was holding was a clipping from William and Mary's student newspaper, The Flat Hat. And the article I was rereading during what was a declutter that I did during my recent move was a review of The 13th Warrior starring Antonio Banderas. Now, that movie came out in 1999, and back then I absolutely loved it. I mean, I have a feeling if I watched it again today, I would have a lot of questions for myself, but whatever. I loved it back then, and I loved it enough to write a review of it in The Flat Hat. Now, I wasn't a full-time Flat Hat writer, but I managed to guest on it a couple of times, and this was one of the times I got to do this. And it was a dream come true to me for me to see my name in black and white, because it was taking me back to a dream that I had in elementary school. Now, growing up, we were constantly dreaming and imagining ourselves as different things. And I know for many years, I wanted to own an orphanage because I wanted to be the loving and kind patron in a way that Miss Hannigan and Annie never was. So the dreams were aplenty, but one of them was to be a journalist like Valerie Voss and Dick Wolf, and especially Christiane Amanpour, who I was always fangirling when we watched CNN International at our home in our house in Ibadan. So getting to see my name as an author in black and white on the William and Mary School newspaper was like, yes, I've kind of arrived. But as I was looking back on that, years removed during my declutter, it was kind of sad because I never actually did pursue that dream further. I didn't go for journalism or communications or flex that muscle more while I was at William and Mary. First of all, there wasn't really a degree like that at that time, but that's besides the point. In the end, I became an economics major. And for some people, when they hear I was an econ major, they're like, what? Really? You were? Yeah. And I was. And I became an econ major for some very sad and mundane reasons. I chose econ not because I loved it so much. I mean, Econ 101 was cool, but I chose it because I thought this is a practical choice. This is a safe choice. This is a responsible choice. And it will get me moving on down the road to a solid job. And to me now, that is so sad, because I was so scared when I was making that decision. I was scared in college. I was scared of making a mistake, of not succeeding. I was scared that I didn't dare to follow my curiosity. And in those days, following my curiosity would have led me to go deeper into the classes and the things that were more interesting to me, and actually where I was thriving and strong. Like, I'd taken a creative writing class, a literary and cultural studies class, and film class. And these were things that were in my area of strength and deepest interest and curiosity, and areas where I wanted to learn more and go deeper and be better. And even now, as I think about these topics, like, I'm getting excited all over again, and they still resonate with me. But I put the kibosh on all that. I chickened out. I did that. Not my professors, not my friends, not my parents, because my parents have always been very supportive of what I wanted to learn and study. No, I'm the one who did that. I did that all by myself. I was scared to do what another friend of mine was doing, which was to create my own degree. And even though it was an option, I just didn't exercise my courage. I didn't flex my courage in that direction. And I wonder where things would have gone if I had. I'm not saying I stay up at night regretting the econ degree. It did open some doors for me, but I'm thinking more about the mindset and the posture that I had at that time that got me to where I got and got me to those decisions. I wasn't leaning into and following my curiosity. I was leaning out in fear and wanting to be safe, secure, and to have guarantees. And in the end, it didn't give me any guarantees anyway. And so I wonder, and I'm wondering for you, if any of this resonates. Have you had a time in your life when you didn't exercise the courage to follow your curiosity? And what did you miss out on? Or what did you end up just taking the long road to get to anyway? I'm thinking about this more nowadays because, as I said, these past 4 episodes, especially with my guests, have really lit a fire under me and made me realize 2 things, and made 2 things very plain and clear to me. 1, I'm hearing the call to follow my curiosity again. And 2, I'm scared to answer it. So I'm stalling. I'm holding back. I'm hesitating. For real. My creating maven, I'm scared. Real talk. Yes. The Reframe specialist is scared. And I don't get it. I don't get why I'm so scared, because this isn't the first time that I've had this call to curiosity. In fact, despite that example that I shared about college and not following my call to curiosity in that context, there have been other contexts later on in my life where I've done it boldly, loudly, breaking things gladly, and, all along the way and ending up in surprising and exciting places. That was me moving back to Sierra Leone after grad school without a job or a plan. That was me quitting my nonprofit associate director job at CDD and going on a journey to find out what it looked like to be paid to be me, and finding coaching and OD work, and now Reframe to create on the other side of things. I've done this before. I followed my curiosity before and found that all I never imagined that I wanted could be on the other side of it. So I know all the great stuff on the other side of having the courage to follow your curiosity. I know the upside and the benefits of following your curiosity, and I know how much is lost and how much I miss out on when I don't follow it. I know this, which is why I don't get what's going on with me right now. I don't get my current hesitation, the fear, the trepidation. That's what I want to get real about and unpack with you today as we tease out some of the most powerful lessons and tips from the last 4 guest episodes. Because maybe you've been there, or maybe you're here right now, and maybe hearing me share this will help you unpack what's going on with you and help you to feel less alone. And maybe we can help each other move forward together. You ready? Let me ask you this. If you had to do it over again, but this time using your curiosity as your guide, what different choices would you make? What degree would you pursue? Would you even pursue a degree? What job or career would you pursue instead? Would you even frame it this way at all? Would these type of questions even take shape in this way in your mind? I know now after my conversations with Lamar, Betsy, Jifa, and Victoria that for me, things would have taken a very different path. Oddly enough, I think I would have ended up where I am now. I'd have just gotten here faster without as many detours. That's because everything about what I'm doing now is what college age and younger Joy would have loved to be about, but maybe didn't think there was a career exactly like this or that this was possible. I would have loved to be a podcast host, which harkens to my journalist and communication interests. I would have loved to be a coach and a storytelling and public speaking coach at that. Oh my goodness, that I knew that this was possible. So really nothing I'm doing now is foreign to a younger version of me, because where I am now is a direct result of recent commitments to following my curiosity, to recent commitments to being committed to what I'm passionate about and creating and learning more about that. So this is what this makes me think. This makes me think that for you, and I think your curiosity is like mine, your curiosity is deeply rooted and tied to the real, the deep, and the enduring things about you. It makes me think that if now, today, you dare to pick up your curiosity right where you left it off whenever last that was, you're going to find that it's still connected to the things that are most real to you. And that those things, even if they've been forgotten for a while, those things are still alive. The heart is still beating strong, even if it feels like it's just out of earshot right now. And I think you know this as well as I do. But if you're stalling like I am, something's getting in your way, and I think I know what it is. It's that insidious skill we all pick up that we're told is the mark of a responsible adult. It's the ability to walk and hobble along with a pebble in your shoe instead of stopping to take it out. It's that ability to be resilient, quote unquote. Never mind you're being resilient in the face of a situation that is misaligned. We're doing this not because we're masochists. We're getting a kind of comfort, actually, a promise of security and certainty, a false promise, but a promise of protection from a greater pain that we ultimately fear, not a physical pain. No, it's a mental and emotional pain that we feel when we're uncertain. It's the uncertainty. And I know this pain very well. I know the pain of feeling like I don't have answers about my life. I hate and I'm scared of feeling confused. I'm saying this because you probably get this. Maybe like me, you're not a big lover of adventure. There are people out there who they get excited at the prospect of floating out in a sea of uncertainty. The types, the folks who are, excited to be on the wide open ocean and they're not terrified. They leap into the unknown of life with like this broad grin on their face, like nothing is happening, and, they flex their courage muscles and it's easy for them, or it seems easier for them. They're not like us. They're not like people like us who really have to work hard at this. Those people who, fall in love with failure, blah, 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 blah. That's not me. But it's actually not a fear of failure. It's just that fear of the pain of uncertainty that I mentioned before. And I get it. I feel it really deep. And the fact that I'm here again in this place of fear of the pain of uncertainty, despite having made brave and courageous curiosity following moves in the past, pisses me off. Like it pisses me off to no end. But even as it's pissing me off, it's showing me something. It's showing me that this thing doesn't end. My big disappointing realization is that the fear of the valley doesn't go away just because you've been through 100 valleys before. Like, I'm shocked at this. I don't know. I thought, after a few valleys, I would get the hang of a valley. Like, I'm sure you feel that way too. Like, we've been through things before. We've come through on the other side of things. Like, at what point are we going to feel permanently brave and courageous and fearless? And I've been feeling a bit like a failure because I'm scared. But it just shows me that it's not a one-time thing. Having the courage to follow your curiosity and get past the pain of uncertainty in order to do this is not a one-time thing. It's a challenge that will come up again and again in your life and in my life in different forms. It's an ongoing journey. And it's okay that we feel scared. It's okay. We don't have to go it alone. We don't have to feel fearless before we do the thing. We don't have to feel fearless at all. It's not a requirement. And the fear is not a sign of failure. The fear doesn't disqualify us. It's just an ongoing journey. And we've got to be willing to go on this journey again and again, or else we'll end up stuck in the same place. You know the place. You might be there right now. The places we all end up when we're not exercising our courage to follow our curiosity. The places that make us feel unexpressed. The places that shout at us and scratch at us. You're misaligned. Your gifts and your purpose won't find their support and outlet here. You're misaligned. Get out. Maybe you're in that place right now and you've been ignoring your courageous call to follow your curiosity. And I hope you'll join me in responding to the call again, because I've seen it myself and I've seen it in others, how it looks when you sit in a thing that has gone bad for too long, when you ignore the call to exercise courage. You can get to a point where you run out of steam. You can get to a point where you feel like you're a lazy bum with no motivation and no creativity and no fire. And in those moments, you can really go to town on yourself instead of realizing that it's not you, it's them. Well, more specifically, it's the environment. When you know you are a motivated person who loves to create on any given day, and you suddenly or you slowly find yourself unable or unwilling to do the thing to create, the first thing to do is not blame yourself, but to examine your environment. Because honey, I can guarantee that even in environments that start out great, a shift can happen that makes something that was once a great spot that was completely aligned with your gifts and what you had to offer, it can over time shift and become misaligned. And when that happens, you can cling to the comfort of the past because you're afraid of the uncertainty of following your curiosity to create something new. But it's a dead end. Or rather, it's a detour. It's the long, winding road to where you're gonna backtrack to anyway because it's who you are. So why not skip the detour and get to it right now? So what do we do? 3 things. 1, recognize. You've got to recognize what this feeling is really about. All this angst and grunts and groans are signals. They are signs poking you in the rib. They are coming from your misaligned environment. It's your environment, and I know it's your environment because I know that in your natural form you are motivated and creating. This is not normal. This is not time to sink into comfort and safety of the familiar. It's not time to try to be resilient and make do. This is not time to manage. Recognize that whatever it was in the past, however awesome it was in the past, right now things are misaligned and you're getting poked. Stop hiding from this. Acknowledge it, recognize it. Just stop for a minute and recognize. Lamar showed us that exposure is the birthplace of possibility. And that is all about putting ourselves into the right environments that nurture and stoke our creating power. This is not something we just passively expect to come to us. We have to actively put ourselves there. But we got to have an awareness and recognize where we are and what we're in. 2, reframe. A reframe means that this work always requires us to look at things differently. A lot of times our old ways of seeing things is what's keeping us stuck. Our old ways of seeing ourselves, our old ways of defining what we're in and what is possible. Even our old ways of seeing our valleys and us assuming that we already know what a new journey is going to be like because we assume it'll be like the last. That's not necessarily the case. Betsy Jordan in episode 78 gave us a reframe like no other when she shared that our passion is not what we love, but what we hate. Mind blown, right? A reframe like that can help us look at what we're passionate about in a new way that can set us off on a completely different curiosity journey than we expected. But we have to be willing to ask these new questions to get a reframe. According to Betsy, it's what we hate. It's what's driving us nuts and mad. It's what gets us thinking somebody should do something about that. That's the signal that that's our work. That's where our passion lies, and that's where our curiosity should be turned. Which brings us to 3, reset. While a reframe is a different way of thinking and looking at things, a reset is a different way of doing things. Our reset is to take the lessons of following curiosity given to us by Jifa in episode 79 and Victoria in episode 80. This needs to be our new way of moving in the world. As we ask ourselves, what's got me curious? And then take small steps towards that. We can do this. We can recognize, reframe, and reset. I know you can do this. You can do this, my creating maven. I don't know exactly what it looks like for you in the coming weeks and months, but I know for me, I'm going to keep looking back at the lesson of being an econ major instead of creating the major that I wanted. And I want to keep looking back on that lesson and what it's teaching me about the cost of not following my curiosity and the benefit of doing that. I now see that the courage to follow my curiosity is the fastest route to making my unique contribution through what I'm born to create. It's the fastest, most direct, and most reliable route to what's inside of me being birthed into life for the service I'm gifted to bring. And I believe the same for you. If you went back and met your younger self, a younger version of yourself, would you find yourself following your curiosity, or would you have to stage an intervention? Think about it. Whatever your answer, I hope you take the opportunity to stage an intervention for yourself right now. Now is the time at Creating Maven. Now is the time to flex that follow your curiosity muscle and let it help you overcome your fears and create your unique contribution. Try it out this week. This is your homework. Ask yourself, what's got me curious? And then see where it leads. If you've enjoyed this episode and are enjoying Reframe to Create, then do me a favor. Don't keep the love all to yourself. If you're getting something out of our time together, there's at least one other person you know who's never listened to a single episode and who you know would get as much out of this as you are. So share the love and share this episode with them and invite them to follow Reframe to Create. The more, the merrier. See you soon, Creating Maven. And this time, ask yourself, what's got me curious? And see where it leads.